quite as I hoped it would, Detective. Honestly, I was expecting you to use your unorthodox technique to keep her off balance and, not volunteer us to be her henchman. This woman is running circles around us. She might have known about your misplaced badge all along, or she's simply an adept improviser. Either way, we've played straight into her hands.
He doesn't let it show, but there is a limit to how much the consequences of your unprofessional behavior can cost the investigation. Maybe this is all her plan. She might have heard about you.
I'm sure you will, Detective. I wouldn't go that far. Her reaction did come off as sincere to me. I think she's just quick to adapt. She's a professional, after all. No, if there is reasonable suspicion, we must investigate. Otherwise, she could claim we're siding with the Union, or that we are on their take. We'd never hear the end of it. What I propose is, we ask her, then we investigate, briefly. But do not share the outcome of this investigation with her. We tell her it's done and demand for her information on the lynching. Oh, that would be fantastic, but do we have the time? The world is large and your badge is 8 by 6 centimeters.
The situation might have changed drastically by the time you locate it. Time is of the essence.
You could request a new one from your station, but that would literally take months.
You're back. Good. What can I help you with? That's the man who was killed. I'm afraid this is a discussion for once we've cleared the lynching question. Better not tie the fourth day to the bat's day on this. I hope there is something else I can help you with.
She wants to answer the question. Protocol keeps her from it.
This reality?
Yes, reality is your side case. An experimental side case.
How truly curious. A sort of philosopher detective.
Are they now?
A deep synthesis. I'll assist you however I can then. Go ahead. Ask.
All right, we're in. I know these all look good, but begin with the first, okay? 6 kilometers southwest in the Valley of Dogs, Junior Officer Chad Tilbrook takes aim at a rabid black dog licking its wounds in the grass. To his left, his partner, Emil Mullins, whispers, "You heard what happened to Tequila Sunset in Martinez?" "Yes, he lost his mind," Tilbrook answers, fingers on the trigger. "Don't worry, Emil." He pulls it out slowly. Slowly now. He'll find it again. We always do.
You? You're an officer of the RCM. Preciso mundo. Nothing more nor less than the de facto law enforcement body of post-revolutionary Revachol, Detective.
Yes, we are the Revachol Citizens Militia.
He's being sarcastic.
Yes, that means not de jure. The RCM acts in what is poetically called the twilight of international law, both at the behest of the coalition government and to its chagrin. The RCM's responsibilities are defined by the Emergency, Wayfarer and Aliments Acts, 3 pieces of legislation keeping the city in a, let's be honest, laissez-faire stasis to the benefit of foreign capital.
All 3 are good to know when we are out policing.
There's nothing basic about your role, Detective. It's true that the RCM keeps everything the way our seemingly permanent, provisional rulers like it. Yet, on the other hand, I know these people. I deal with them daily. Let me tell you, dear, they are not fans of you. The post-revolutionary decade was a disaster for the coalition government. Revachol in the 20s was hell, especially on the west side of the river. Gang warfare, a botched privatization scheme, a nuclear pile meltdown. They called it the international zone because no nation wanted to claim responsibility. The RCM restored peace where the coalition failed, a true blue citizens' initiative. they will never forgive you.
That's somewhat of an exaggeration. In reality, ours is a mutually beneficial arrangement. Ravacholians get to keep the peace in Ravachol, and the coalition doesn't have to worry about it. Anyway, sorry to intrude. Please continue.
Yes, Lieutenant. Permit me to conclude with this. Who you are, to me, is the police. The only legitimate law enforcement authority in Revachol. And if those authorities drink so hard they need help recalling the basic terms of reality, well, I'm here to help. A bird? A sphenicid? A flightless bird of the polar regions? Ah! This is the pier of Rue de Saint-Ghislaine, 33A, where the tenants have been kind enough to rent me a slot. Or two. A pre-revolutionary tenement. Old buildings are called tenements, you see. And new buildings, bâtiments. After les bâtiments nouveaux. But 33A and 33B are not nouveaux. They're old. This one used to be 8 to 10 stories tall. A real high-rise by the standards of the last century. Built to mirror the skyscrapers across the bay in the Delta. That was before the war, of course. Mostly the urban middle class, I believe. This was once primo real estate, before the cannons lopped 4 or 5 stories off. Splat, splat. Wonderful. The girl in the old lady rags looks like a sullen and rebellious member of a teen infraculture. Yes, you and I belong to the supraculture. We're common, the herd. The music on the radio, the food in the chain restaurant, those are all too popular for the girl in the old lady rags. She prefers a fantasy world, an infraculture with its own dress code and vernacular. It is an illusion, I'm afraid. There is no refuge from the supraculture. I can't. That's how simple it is. One may dye their hair green and wear their grandma's coat, all they want. Capital has the ability to subsume all critiques into itself. Even those who would critique capital end up reinforcing it instead. All right. What next? What I am not is a basic term of reality.
There may be a way to get her speaking about herself at some later juncture. Everyone wants to talk about themselves. She will, in time.
We're in Martinez, baby. A casual term of endearment popular among the 50-plus crowd. It's a disco holdover, pay it no heed. Aren't we all?
She refers to your corresponding ages.
Martinez is a district of Revachol. A very small district tucked away near the industrial harbour, north of the 881 and Jamrock. You would be excused for not knowing about it. Unimportant, they say. Forgotten, even. Shelled to smithereens during the Revolution. It has its charms, just not this time of year. I'm not a good ambassador. I've only been here once before, as a teenager. Not a lot has changed. There are ruins, a terminal, fishing boats, reeds, boys with boxy shoulders.
A brief spike of longing in her upright body. The dots under her eyelids shake.
This place used to be a province. A workers' resort before the city swallowed it and the artillery did its work. The reeds are the real star of the show here now. The further down the coast, the wilder it gets. Yes, I was slumming it with some girlfriends of mine. We had boats and... Don't hold it against me. The boys certainly did not. It's not really a sea, it's the Bay of Revachol. And the bay feeds into the ocean. Yes, we're on an island in an ocean. the world's largest body of water, the Insulindic.
Known to the early Rivisholians as Les Immensités Bleues, the Blue Immensities. Vast, lukewarm and unknowable, flowing in and out of sight.
Caillou, as you already know. Imagine a pebble. A smoothed-over pebble amidst a great blue sea, misshapen, cracked. The cracks are the River Esperance. We're in the delta of this river, on the 6th branch, the Martinez distributary.
It is clear this pebble is of enormous value to her. And to humanity at large.
I would be happy to. What is a preposterously expensive education for, if not sharing? These are unimportant times, Detective. You and I were born after the dust had settled. 1,000th of a second too late. For the big time. The revolution. It's quite easy. Every 100 years or so, our species gets together to decide what's next, who gets shot in the head, and who gets the mineral rights. It's a real kerfuffle. Those would be the communists. Generally speaking, 40 million people got shot in the head during the World Revolution. But the communists, they all got shot in the head.
She's not gloating. It's a relieved celebration.
Oh, and the anarchists too. They shot them well. So well, one forgets they even existed. Did they ever? Before they got shot themselves, they shot 2 million people. Yes, the Red Deluge. The Insulindian Deluge, they call it. Oh, lots of people. Even the king got shot in the head, or thrown beneath a horse, or drowned. Accounts differ. It was unceremonious. Just as well, he wasn't actually the king. Just the king's nephew. The real king abdicated and lived out a long and productive life as a venture capitalist in Grade. Yes, King Guillaume had a nose for bad PR. He ran before it. What is the expression? Went down? Anyway, Gil got out alive and his nephew Fricelle got shot in his place. Him and tens of thousands of his wonderfully fascist kingsmen. It was a wild time. The liberals got the mineral rights. And by mineral rights, I mean everything. Liberals are usually middle-class people, Detective. Or the remaining gentry. The beneficiaries of the pre-revolutionary arrangement. Some were rich enough to stay with the Constitution, with monarchy. Big mistake. Others bet on the revolution. They were called the ultras, or ultra-liberals. They fared well. They didn't win so much as survive. We were the last ones standing when the war ended. Everyone else got shot in the head, remember?
We. She's one of them. Of course.
To foreign intervention. The coalition. Those people really took the mineral rights. The liberals took everything that wasn't nailed to the ground. The coalition took the ground. The ocean, the laws, and the people. The coalition of nations. Grade, Mesque, Vesper, Messina, Oranje, and Sur-la-Clay. The armed center of the world. They landed here and ended the revolution. It was the moralist thing to do.
There is bitterness in her voice, tempered with understanding. She is critical, but ultimately understands the cause.
The moralists believe in keeping everything exactly the way it is. They believe in mineral rights, and not shooting people in the head. At least not in the same manner and volume as the others do. They are the long-standing provisional rulers of Revachol now, the coalition government.
the rulers of Revachol, and also the world. These guys are strong.
This is their zone of control. They embolden the RCM with crumbs of the same law they took. Technically speaking, you are a moralist.
The color of moralism is blue. The official motto of Moral Intern, or Moralist International, is a blue forget-me-not, a piece of grey sky. Unofficial. For a moment, there was hope.
A devout man of the center. Hard to come by. It's good to have someone who takes a moderate approach to head shooting. In your line of work, I mean. The turn of the century revolution? Don't answer it. It's a trick question. The revolution began in '02 on the Isla of Grad, though by the end, nearly the whole world had gotten involved. It wasn't a who, but a what. A pandemic of Zarat, a particularly virulent prion disease, which the authorities in Grad proved unable to contain. Then Mazov came along and overthrew the government. It made people overthrow their governments. Of course not. It was a highly infectious microorganism that destroyed brain tissue. The actual causes of the revolution were material. The pandemic only provided the spark. From Revachol and Grad? Not far. The world managed to cauterize itself. Mazov's government was overthrown in '08, and the coalition crushed the Revachol commune 2 years later. It was the end. Why? You and I, officer. Our lives in the zone of control.
Something tells you her life and yours are not that similar. Maybe it's because she has a boat and you have that necktie? A pair of pants?
No doubt. But we share the same time and position on the planet's crust. That counts for more than you think. A city-state divided into free market zones under the everlasting interregnum of the Coalition of Nations, and you, of course, the citizens' militia.
The clatter of typewriter keys fills the main hall of the reappropriated silk mill. Precinct 41. Chad Tilbrook presses enter. Outside, Officer Elfboy Williams slams the door of an armored motor carriage.
The zone of control is the third incarnation of Revachol, after the failure of the suzerain and the commune. Modernity. They developed the marvels of the inter-Islary communication. Telematic milieus, radiation, colored plastics. Meanwhile, in Revachol West, the aftermath continues for the 5th decade.
51 minus 8 equals 43.
Time flies. The 20s saw a decade of urban war, west of the river leveled, offshore platforms in flames. Still, it's regarded as an improvement on what came before. '08 to '19 was simply hell. The 30s? Things settled down in the 30s. Revachol East transformed itself into the world's largest tax haven, with the international community's blessing. For the first time in a long time, it seemed like things were going somewhere.
Then you happened. Your youth in the 30s.
Yes, and quantitative easing. It was a market mirage, unfortunately. The 40s dispelled it. An Isla-wide hangover, you might say. So, here we are. Welcome to reality, baby.
From the looks of it, the 50s haven't been much better for the zone of control. You can see it in her eyes. Days slipping away.
I've no right to be dissatisfied. This shirt is Barbara Muscova, this raincoat is impervious to rain and is guaranteed for 100 years. My daughters will wear it. No, it's just... we could have had so much more. Every one of us. If only we'd played it right. Good question. What would you have done differently?
No, her first.
And I asked you, past-less detective of the Citizens Militia. What insight has acute encephalopathy given to you? So a quarter of humanity simply lost their minds. And how would you stop a prion, a complex folding protein, unlife, with the technology 50 years ago? Good hygiene. Really. A very moderate solution to an extreme problem. It's those sort of half measures that doomed the authorities in Grad. When they failed to step up, Marzov and his party stepped in. In this particular case, maybe a more robust state response might have been appropriate.
Opinions expressed here do not reflect the official position of the RCM.
And what is your official position, Lieutenant?
My position, ma'am? My parents got ripped to shreds in the revolution. I would have gone the same way. I was saved by being 2 years old. That's my position. The abattoir.
Understandable. They are what they are. Who knows? An afterbloom may yet come. Anyway, enough sentimentality. Is there anything else you want to know?
Now's your chance. Ask her who she is. She won't get out this time. She won't maneuver her way out of this one.
I am the vilest of the vile. A traitor. A devourer of nations and infants. I am an ultra.
She raises the corner of her mouth, smirking, revealing a canine.
An ultra-liberal. It's a type of liberal. From the revolution. It's, not the moderate kind. Haven't you heard? I am a nether creature of the Forbidden Swamp. One of those who pushed the king under a shit wagon and betrayed the revolution. I can see you thought I'd gone extinct. No sane person identifies as an ultra-liberal anymore. Not in broad daylight. You're a centrist at heart. A real moralist. Tell me, now that I've uncoiled myself, do you find me frightening?
In her green eyes, you see a mixture of truth and self-satire. Decades of guilt and pride. Forgive her, but only because you like pearlescent teeth and those light green eyes.
A devil, who being of great charm and guile sneaketh into the homes of the godly. I hope so. I hope we are able to continue as friends despite my scaly bulk. And the insanity, bloodshed, and transfer of wealth that took place here. It was not the plan all along. When the dust settled, the Liberals were the only ones left to clean up the mess. By virtue of their survival, they were handed enormous power to shape the future. This was all our last generation managed. With due respect to our overlords, the eternal caretaker government that keeps Martinez a monument to the efficacy of its artillery, I would not have relinquished sovereignty to the Coalition. Not here in Martinez, and not in the Stella Maris or Delta Beachheads either. If not for my own sake.
She realizes her small, cold fists are clenched. She loosens them.
Then for my daughters. We had an obligation to defend our sovereignty. We should have burned the whole Isola down rather than let them have it.
Dark orange flames reflect in her green eyes. An oil fire on the ocean.
Perhaps. My intellectual vanity will be my undoing.
You're no dummy yourself.
A smart boy getting smarter, one basic term of reality at a time. Yes, I suppose I am. But I wouldn't be a patriot anywhere but here.
Seditious talk, man.
Yes. Whatever else I am, I'm also a mother. And a wife. Now, shall we return to reality? Glad to have been of assistance. The little that I know. Anything else? It's quite straightforward. Someone is using Terminal B to smuggle raw ingredients from the Samaran Isola into Revachol with the Union's blessing. Wild Pines has suspected it for years.
Ingredients for what, ma'am?
Meth and dextroamphetamine, GBL, and various synthetic psychedelics. Honestly, it might be quicker to say what you can't make from the stuff. Yes, after they clear the terminal, we lose track. The actual production is taking place at various sites in and around Jamrock Quarter, north of here.
Wild Pine seems to be well apprised of the local drug trade, ma'am. Do you mean to say the Union also produces the product? Sells drugs, I mean?
We're in logistics. It's our business to know. And no. As far as the company knows, the Union does not produce it. They transport the ingredients for a cut. Yes, but you won't get anything out of Evrat and the Dock Workers Union. Still, every chain has its weak link.
The handoff. The motor lorries at the roundabout.
Precisely. Someone needs to move the ingredients from the harbour into the city. Once they reach Jamrock, they're distributed to a network of local manufacturers well beyond our grasp. But in transit, they're vulnerable.
How convenient that they're stranded like beached whales at that roundabout.
Perhaps you've noticed that a number of lorries are tangled in a traffic jam at the roundabout just now. Interview the drivers who are still hanging about. One of them might be waiting for a crucial shipment. I'll be explicit. If you find this driver, I will share company secrets with you.
Uncovering Union secrets could also give you an upper hand when dealing with them. You'll be indebted to her, in a way, but one step ahead of the Union in another.
We did, on more than one occasion. Apparently, there's some sort of inter-precinct disagreement about whose jurisdiction this area falls under.
We know the company has launched its own probe into the Union's alleged involvement. We also know it's come up empty. It's not just the RCM. No one's been able to find any hard evidence.
Well, here's your chance, officers. No. We asked East Motor Track to raise the drawbridge. The road company is a partner of one of our subsidiaries. However, this is a limited time opportunity. Once the complaint has been processed by the Trade Committee, they'll have no choice but to lower the drawbridge, and the operation will continue. Thousands of litres of raw ingredients will pour onto the streets of Revachol. Not the east across the river, but the west. The vulnerable, the weary.
Well, at least this solves one mystery.
What is that, Lieutenant?
Why I had to call East Motor Track and beg them to open a drawbridge for me. I'd wondered since I first drove in, on my motor carriage.
I am sorry for the inconvenience, Lieutenant Kisaragi, but we need them trapped here. This is a unique opportunity. I'm sure you understand. How do you think they're financing this strike? There are thousands of unpaid dock workers going strong for the 4th month straight.
There was a shakedown of local businesses preceding the strike. Many were squeezed to bankruptcy to fund it.
With all due respect to these desert cacti, the contents of a few cash registers cannot provide for 2,000 men. The local businesses can scarcely provide for themselves. Precisely. Smuggled out of that very gate at night, most likely, then loaded onto lorries and driven to Jamrock. You simply need to find one driver who will open up to you.
It sounds like she tried looking into it herself, though she's clearly not the type your typical lorryman would confide in.
The two might even be connected.
Or not. Though, if you have evidence to the contrary, I'm eager to hear it.
As eager as I am to share it, Lieutenant, once the job is done. Yes? Excellent. According to my reports, there are at least 3 lorry drivers lingering near the roundabout. Hopefully one of them will know something. It may come to nothing, or it may just blow the case wide open. I can keep the drawbridge up for a few more days at least. You should have the time you need. In the meantime, let me know if there's any other way I may be of assistance. You have? And how did you like Mr. Clare?
Finally, time to choose sides.
Oh, come on now. He has his uses. How else would he have stayed in power all these years? Or wait, actually, corruption. That's how he's done it. Fantastic, Worm-like corruption, reaching into the bowels of the earth.
The position of my unusual colleague does not reflect official policy. I hope you understand. The RCM does not pick sides.
Of course. And I don't expect you to share anything he told you with me. I'm not a corrupt Worm myself. However, if you felt like discussing something, how could I stop you? Are we not human? Are we not curious to hear another person's take? It's only natural. We would only be gossiping.
Intellectually speaking, it would be quite interesting to hear what she has to say about these things.
Yes, your disgusting necktie agrees completely. Let's gossip.
Of course, Detective. Should something come up later down the road, don't be afraid to drop by for a chat. Until then, is there anything I can help you with? Of course, Detective. Take care.
God damn it, I already told you. My husband isn't missing. And I specifically added that I didn't need to know where he was. Very well then. Where is he? Excuse me? I don't follow.
There's something else hiding in her voice, though. A trace of worry.
Right, 'cause working class women come with alcoholic husbands. You know what?
Remember, about that what, never ever say what.
You were right. I do have an alcoholic husband. Although not that one.
Ha, blam, knew it.
I did, and he is. He's also an alcoholic. No, he's not. Or maybe he is, I don't know. He's probably in the park or in Shamrock somewhere, drinking with his friends. I haven't seen him for... Well, to hell with him.
There. She's worried now.
I wouldn't be so sure. Ma'am, just to be completely clear, do you want to report it to the police?
Report what? He's just out drinking with his friends. I'm sure the police has better things to do than to chase down local goofballs.
She sighs, but you can detect a slight hint of gratitude and relief from her face.
All right, go ahead. Do you have any questions? Honestly, not that different from you. Oh, thank God, no. It hasn't come down to this yet. Well, he's slightly chubby. What else? He was wearing a dark brown leather jacket with a bright blue inner lining. The lining is hand-sewn. I made it myself. It's his cool jacket. God knows it's too cold to run around in this, but he refuses to change.
Who cares about the cold when you have your cool jacket to wear? You can completely sympathize.
I even tried throwing it away once, but he just dug it out of the bin. Can you believe it? Well, what can you do? I hope that at least that extra lining helps him keep warm at night. I wouldn't like him to catch cold.
She's thinking about him out in the cold, in some park, or on the coast. And it's making her more and more worried.
Yesterday morning, he went to the library. He went to retrieve my book, and he promised he'd walk straight back home. Because we talked about this. We talked about not wandering off again. I don't know what to do. I honestly don't know what to do with his addiction. Just makes me feel weak.
Gone for around 36 hours then. Damn, this is a missing persons case. She turns away from you in an attempt to recover.
So you are going to look for him?
She genuinely wants you to know. Don't make her ask.
Thank you. Please do. Even though I'm sure he will return home by himself. I'm still sure of that.
She tries to maintain a brave front, even though her eyes reveal the opposite.
I'm sure he will too. When he does, would you let Precinct 57, Kim Kitsuragi, know?
I will, of course, officer. As I said, it's probably nothing.
Inside, you see a set of steering levers, a radio microphone, a pull-out toolbox, and the soft glow of the fuel preheater gauge.
All right. Ready? I turn, you press start. It's next to the preheater.
He's downplaying his excitement. The lieutenant is more than happy to show off his precious carriage. The dashboard lights up with orange glow. The rounds per minute gauge jumps, and the engine of the Caprice Canadian comes to life with a whiny growl. The lights unfold with a little click, casting electrical light onto the ground before the vehicle.
There you go. I'll turn them off from the remote once you're done. We just need to stand in front of the machine now.
As you hold your ledger's clip under the headlamp, a shimmering iridescent pattern appears. One you've definitely seen before.
There she is. Revachol West.
Around the borders of the watermark are dozens, no, hundreds of micro-perforations. The rectangular watermark is overlaid with the logo of the RCM, and yet the major arteries of Revachol are all recognizable. They shimmer in the Kanema's headlights. You catch a faint glimmer from a broken beer bottle in the distance. Sounds. Two men engaged in a drunken argument, followed by the closing of some distant window.
Ah, Martinez at night. Let me see. Right here. Oh yes. Coal City. Le Royaume. The burnt-out quarter.
There are many of them, and they are divided into 3 separate rows. The first row has 18 dots. The next is the longest. It runs all the way around the border, and then some. You count 216 perforations. Considering that nice, large number, a wave of pride washes over you, though you can't say why, precisely. The last row has 3 perforations. That's it.
Those are perforations. They represent your record as an officer of the RCM. They are your statistics, as it were. I should have guessed you'd keep a record. Officers often do. Let's take a look.
Alpha male officers who are proud of their numbers often do. It's meant. Son, here is where we score your life performance. You better hope it's good.
The first row represents your years of service. 18 years. Okay, not bad at all. What did you do before you volunteered? That's what it says. I might have guessed even longer based on your age. What did you do all those blissful years of your youth? Yes, that does seem quite likely. Your youth coincided with some heady days for Revachol. But let's move on, shall we? This next row, the one that wraps all the way around, is your number of closed cases. Closed is good. It means finished. You've got, let's see... Wow, more than 200. It's quite a lot, even for someone who's been on the force for nearly 2 decades. Usually, clearing more than 10 cases a year puts you in the 90th percentile of all RCM officers. Call it what you want. You were a valuable member of your precinct. Now, let's look at the last row. Right. Those are your confirmed kills. You've got precisely 3 perforations there. For an RCM officer, especially Precinct 41, which is in the Jamrock quarter, it's rather tame. I mean that in a good way.
What's it feel like to kill a man, Mr. McCoy? A young woman asked the man across the desk from her. Honestly, babe, says John McCoy, crossing his ankles over said desk. I don't feel anything anymore. It's just like brushing my teeth. I do it once or twice a week and don't really think about it. There's no trace of guilt in his voice.
There are certain officers who treat their kills like some kind of ghoulish game. If they do happen to solve a case, it's usually by accident. But it seems as though you are, or at least were, one of the good ones. So we have that to be thankful for. Yes.
It's not a problem for him to state it, however.
Everyone has their own method of coping. Some more effective or self-destructive than others. Personally, I find it helps to keep up a few hobbies. Why not take up a sport? You've already got that fan gear.
It's meant in earnest. Please don't mistake it for a jab. The lieutenant nods.
Right. I'll go turn off the lights.
You can now see your statistics on your journal page, to the right of the task description.
As you turn, a bright light catches your eye, making you squint. From a distant sunset, a stage light, flash photography, nowhere in particular. It's just what superstar law officers do. They squint at lights, and they solve shit. Yeah, you have. You're a big dick cop, Dick Mullen. Salam Rocky Bayi, badass on-the-edge disco cop. Time to recede into a ludicrous fantasy world. Here we go. Camera. Lights. Yeah, you know. Beneath it is just heartbreak, a pulmonary tract infection, atherosclerotic disease. This is where you say action and reconceptualize all that. Reinvent it as the world's first celebrity police officer. This is the beginning of your legend. With a sudden flash, the world freezes around you, and you along with it. In an iconic monochrome solution, a black silhouette against a rasterized orange world. It's on.
Still here, stuck in this damn jam, my man. What's up? Ah, man, me and narcotics go way back. Had some good times surfing the psychic waves of my own consciousness, you know? But those days are behind me. There are other addictions in my life now. Why the inquiry, my man?
Just be straight with him.
We have a credible lead, sir. Someone on this roundabout is waiting for a bulk shipment from the harbor to load it on their lorry and drive it to Jamrock.
Not me, man. No way. I don't need any trouble. Shit's bad enough anyway. This jam's got folks up in arms, and I'm afraid it's headed toward a conflagration. Look, man, I try to stay away from the criminal underbelly of Revachol. I'm a guest here. You really need to find another man to probe with those questions.
We wouldn't say he's lying, sire. It's not a lie. It's something else. Impossible to say what at this point, but there's something in him. Some trepidation.
Oh, hello, dear. I didn't notice you at first. Oh my. What happened to the water lock? Well, whatever the cause, I'm thankful. To both of you. You've spared me another sleepless night.
You're welcome, ma'am.
I hate to ask, but if your investigation takes you to the other side of the coast, please do keep an eye out for my husband. And if you see him, let him know Lena is waiting for him here at the Whirling. He gets so tangled up in his work that he may not know the water lock's been repaired, and it's cold out there. Oh, you're such a dear. Thank you, sweetie.
You should totally sing karaoke here, the first chance you get. Your emotions need to be expressed. People need to know your vast, oceanic soul. Exactly. It's measured, level-headed, and it needs to be heard through a PA system by other people. Who is mistakenly identified as a cop for his prominent jawline? Yes, sounds likely. You should probably go on stage and pose for a moment when you're done with this thought. See if it works. You should sing the sad small church song from that tape you found. Thought it was obvious. No, Don't sing the happy song. It's stupid. Sing the sad song. It's profound. You would need another copy of the tape first, though. The one upstairs is destroyed.
Can I help you? Thanks. I hope you found what you were looking for. How strange. I certainly didn't put them there. The trash collection service? CS Municipal. I don't see why they would put anything in the trash, though.
Ah, the elusive CS Municipal. I doubt we'll be able to track down who was sent here last and when. This will have to be one of those little threads that solves itself down the road. Thank you anyway.
Sylvie had the keys before I got here, and I can vouch for her. I can vouch for all my staff. None of us would tamper with the crime scene. I think fugue states are more your forte, officer. Yes? Absolutely out of the question.
You wait and see, cafeteria manager. Absolutely in the question. First we find a sad banger. Then we sing this place to shit. Your body is ready, sire.
Got the 20 real? Good. You got the room for the night, but remember, you'll need another 20 real tomorrow.
It's the ledger you found in the trash. A cabbage of papers hanging from the board, with the permeables drawer inside. It's barely held together by a clip, then made complete by the faint smell of urinal cleaner. It takes about half an hour to piece one together, using the system you've devised. Which one do you want? It would be very interesting to read about these, wouldn't it? I mean, there seems to be a square-shaped entry wound in the victim's forehead. She's been sitting there for weeks, on her rocking chair, with a square hole in her skull, staring at the wall, her mouth agape. That's all you got. From the half hour you spent piecing it together, all you know is the entry wound was square-shaped. You never found the bullet. And then another body showed up, also with a square hole in his forehead. Who knows? Those pages are missing. What next? Don't worry. One day you may still catch the man with the square gun. Some assholes brought their couch outside and hung out on it. In the middle of the street, on the roof, on the hillside by the motorway. You know, at an unexpected location. They were young, and they thought they looked cool on it. Insufferable dicks. Young people are the worst. So anyway, you got a complaint about the damn sofa, or couch, or whatever it is. They were leaving it out in all these unexpected and whimsical locations. They took it to where they also took photos of themselves on it, and smoked cigarettes, and drank coffee because they felt it's intellectual. Cigarette butts, coffee cups, stupid couch. You had to clean it all up, and you did. So congratulations to you. Case solved. No, you didn't have time for that. These notes show that you have what is called a real goddamn job. You don't have time to be chasing down the couch assholes. You have a real job to do. What next? Murder. Tum at the hookah parlor was a case originally assigned to an officer called Joseph Mills, who is now dead, of circumstances completely unconnected to murder at the hookah parlor. Beaten to death by a throng of Villalobos gang members when him and his partner J.M., only initials mentioned, answered a call one night. It's a sad story, and it isn't really represented in your case files. Stop stalling and get to the murder at the hookah parlor. Joseph Mills was on this case that he just couldn't solve, was doing it solo, said it was a real nutcracker, a real brain twister, was on it for, like, a month. The captain got impatient. Shit or get off the pot, Mills. Mills didn't get off the pot. Not yet. He kept at it for a couple of weeks more, racking his brains, running with every theory, as outlandish as they seemed. Still couldn't solve the murder at the hookah parlor. Tough case, he said. toughest he's ever had. No, he was awful. Awful sense of humor, too. The worst jokes you've ever heard. Really rapey. Still, he'd been on it for months now. Said it was the final case. Said it was uncrackable. That murderer vanished into thin air. That goddamn hookah parlor was all he talked about. Okay, so the case is handed to you because Mills isn't getting anywhere, and you look into it. Here's the setup. A young man is found dead in a hookah parlor. You know, those places where you go and smoke bubblegum-flavored vapor all day. No, it's soot and water vapor. It doesn't do anything. Yeah, so anyway, young man in his 20s found with his skull busted open, right on the floor of the hookah parlor, in the middle of the day. No one else is in there. Only client that day. In perfect health, too. Some kind of movie producer. No one enters. No one exits. He's just sucking on his watermelon hookah all morning, all noon, like he usually does. He's a regular. No calls, nothing. Just sucking on the hookah until 15:45. Then bam, he's dead on the floor with his skull busted open, blood everywhere. What happened? How can it be? Mills has no idea. Invisible assassin. Movie deal gone sour. Girl at the counter did it. Nothing fits. Eerie. Man just dropped dead. So you go to the parlor. You see cushions around the table. Table's low, heavy, really sharp edge. See? You can't even read the thing without solving it. Yeah, it was that. Turns out hookah does do something. It turns off your brain's oxygen supply. And you don't notice it until you get up to go to the bathroom. Yeah, he liked his hookah. Stephen was his name. Smoking hookah. Didn't you hear? I don't know. Trying to come up with a movie script, maybe. Anyway, that was murder at the hookah parlor. Joseph Mills wasn't a good detective, and about 30 minutes has passed, piecing it together. Next. Not much has changed in the meanwhile. A bunch of sodden papers still sags from the clipboard. The acidic stench of rotting food is rubbed off on the cellulose. It now forms the base of the experience. This base surrounded by a faint air of spoiled meat, the stuff of death itself, and then sprinkled liberally with the citrus zest of toilet cleaner.
Yes? What about me? What? This? It's just seasonal clothing. Where is this going? Interesting. I think it's called brain.
It's no mere brain.
Okay, art cup. I do not harbor a sentiment for revolutionary air brigades in particular. Okay, I wanted to become an aerostatic pilot. Then I turned 10 and realized we no longer have an air force. Of course, here's my gun and badge. They'll put me in the chest for this, but it feels good to have it off my chest.
The revolutionary must have added a little luster to it for a 10-year-old Kitsuragi. He will never admit it, though.
Agreed. Was there anything else? I see this from a purely tactical standpoint, of course.
It is not from a purely tactical standpoint. We are not ruling out that the lieutenant had a little rebel phase in that past of his.
Good. Good. Let's change the subject.